Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Just I'm gonna make that announcement in Spanish real quick. I'm Luis, and I've been doing some interpreting with NJOP for a while now, so good to be here with you. Vamos a estar grabando esta sesión en español, también con interpretación simultánea. Así que si van a ver la grabación, pueden seleccionar en sus opciones de audio, pueden seleccionar también para escuchar en español con la interpretación. En un momento se activará y podrán oír en un idioma u otro según elijan. Y también pongo las instrucciones en el chat para quien las quiera usar. I've also just pasted instructions in the chat for when we start the interpretation function if anyone arrives midway through and I'm busy doing this thing, please repost those, whoever's hosting or doing backstage stuff. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you. I just want to say again, for those of you who just joined us, we are recording the meeting, so those who can't be here can benefit from the information. We do, I would love it if you'd stay on camera, but I understand if you don't want to be, don't have your face on the recording. We like to see smiling faces, those of us who are speaking, so we welcome you to keep those cameras on. So just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us. And if you haven't already, please put your name and where you're from and where you are in the Blue Acres process in the chat, please. And just in case you didn't hear that before, if you're on a smartphone, the chat button's on the bottom left corner. If you're on a computer, that chat button is right in the bottom middle of your screen. So my name is Leanna Jones. I'm a Hurricane Ida survivor. I live in Milford in Hunterdon County. I've been a volunteer member of NJOP since a couple months after Hurricane Ida in 2021. I'm now on the staff team as storms organizer. I have a personal interest in the topic today. I didn't imagine myself applying for a buyout. I want to stay in my home and get funds to finish repairs, make it safe from future flooding. But in August last year, I was blindsided when my HARP application, my application for resilience funding, was rejected because my home's in a floodway. So I'm in the process myself, and I'm really grateful to have all of you here today and have this event. I wanted to say a little bit about NJOP because there are some new faces here. We're New Jersey Organizing Project. We're a community organization with a proven track record that empowers everyday people in New Jersey to take action together to make changes that our communities need. We were founded almost 12 years ago, right? 10 years ago. We're coming up to our 10th anniversary after Superstorm Sandy happened. Superstorm Sandy survivors came together because people weren't getting back home. They were struggling. We have won rental assistance for Sandy families, mortgage forbearance twice for Sandy families, and working on it for Ida families. And we won $150 million extra for Ida recovery money and more. What are our values? The first one and most important is nothing about us without us. And what that means is we, the people that experience the problem, the communities that are directly impacted, we're the experts. And if we're not part of figuring out solutions and fighting for our families and communities, then they're not going to be real solutions that work for us. We're a vehicle to allow community members to have a voice. We build grassroots power and fight for ourselves. Everyone who wants to make a change is welcome here, no matter who you are, where you're from, who you love, what party you're affiliated with. We don't play party politics. We work to be welcoming to everyone. We respect confidentiality. We hear people's struggles during this work, and we don't share those stories unless someone says we can. And we do our best to have fun when we do this. This process and life in general is short and hard. Fighting for what's right. We hope we can support each other and have a good time when we can doing it. So why are we here today? So Blue Acres, for those of you who are, I think most people are at least considering and know something about it, but just for an intro, it's New Jersey's buyout program. It's run by the DEP, the Department for Environmental Protection. What they do is they purchase properties damaged by repeated flooding from the homeowners, demolish them, and convert them to open space and natural flood storage. It's one potential option for storm survivors to use. But rather it should be one of many options. So there are some areas, Manville and an area called floodways. It's a different story and people have been rejected and push towards Blue Acres as their only hope. Now, Blue Acres can be hard to get information out of directly, and they've said that they don't want us to go to the media and talk about the problems that we're having. We're still going to do that, but they say they want us to ask questions directly to them. So that's what we're going to do. We want to make today as much of a conversation as possible. So we have a few people here who are at different stages of the process. We'll ask and answer questions. Some people have submitted questions in advance, which is great. And if other questions come to mind, please put them in the chat at any time. And if we don't get to address them today in the time we have, we will follow up. So we're really lucky to have Marianne Morris here today, who's a longtime NJOP member and IDA survivor who I've worked alongside. The first person I know that's actually completed the process of Blue Acres buyout since IDA. So Marianne, can I hand it over to you for a little bit to tell us a little bit about your experience with Blue Acres? Oh, we can't hear you, Marianne. And I don't know why.
Now we can. Nope. Nope. Nope.
You
Can
come
hear.
unplugged?
Still can't hear you, Marianne.
Possibly on the Spanish.
Are you on the Spanish interpreter? Luis, do you hear Marianne? No.
Because we could hear Marianne before. One moment. Any idea? Can you come off your headphones, Marianne?
Can Marion hear us? A thumbs up, Marion, if you can hear us.
Yeah, she can hear everyone.
The only thing I could think of is Marianne to jump out and jump back in, and maybe that might
Yeah, do you want to try that?
be great. Sorry
Oh,
about that,
you know,
everyone.
Do you, Jody, since later on we're going to talk about some of the things that we're doing legislative wise, do you want to talk about that now while we're waiting for Marianne to come back?
Totally makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you've all heard, and some of you already know about this, with the Superstorm Sandy, NJOP was able to fight for a mortgage forbearance. Now you have to remember that it was 2 years after Superstorm Sandy when our organization was even created. So it took technically over 3 years for us to get a mortgage forbearance even going. Again, it took us that long because we didn't even have an organization. So it's almost like at the point we're at now with IDA work. We do have a mortgage forbearance that has been passed through the assembly already. Unfortunately, it's got a little snag in the Senate. We're waiting for the second reading of it in the Budget and Appropriation Committee, then for the final vote, and then for the governor to sign it. We have full commitment that it'll be done by at the latest June. I'm not going to promise anything because when you're dealing with politicians and administrations, you never know what can happen. We've been told things before, but all we can do is continue to fight to get that through. We're also fighting on 2 levels to bring in more IDA money, specifically looking at ways to work with other organizations to bring money into the communities that are stuck where they cannot elevate and they're only offered a buyout. We don't feel it's right that people are almost being forced into a buyout or forced to live in the pathway of possibly another flood. We are very well aware that this all came to you guys 2 years too late. I mean, if you knew it right after, maybe you wouldn't be in the situation where a buyout is not even feasible for you. So we continue to fight for it. We're not the type of organization that's going to say, oh no, just step on us. We figure out different angles and just keep pushing through. And hey, you never know when. We just found out last week a Sandy survivor who's not home yet finally got into their recovery program after being told numerous times he was out. We got him back in the program, and he is now in the process of getting home. So just goes to show we don't give up. We just don't give up. How's that?
Can you hear me now?
Thank you. Yes, we can. Hooray. Thank you for jumping in there, Jody, to give us that update. And then great. So now I can hand over to Marianne to tell us a little bit about your experience with Blue Acres. Thank
It's
you.
probably because I was one of the Leanna clones.
Oh, that might be. Definitely.
So I'm going to keep my story short because I want to hear the questions that everyone has. I applied for all of the options right after Ida hit in 2021. I applied for HARP, I applied for Blue Acres, grants, loans, anything that you can think of. I applied for it at the time because I wanted to explore all the options. I wanted to stay. I have a daughter, wanted to be in the Manville community. But I also, my daughter's medically fragile, so I need to do what's safe for my family. So I decided to go the Blue Acres route. If you recall, just a few weeks shy of Ida's 2-year anniversary, the state of New Jersey took it upon themselves to take away that decision as homeowners in Manville, whether you wanted to repair your home and lift through funding such as HARP or apply for a buyout from the Blue Acres program. So they basically forced everyone's hands one way or another. As mentioned, I've gone through the entire process of the Blue Acres program and selling my property in Manville to them. The process has been frustrating. I'll keep it clean for everyone. The process itself is very time consuming. Especially if you still have a mortgage and have to find a new property with no money available or low credit scores due to Ida and all the things that you had to go through. What I have learned firsthand is that you're not considered part of the Blue Acres buyout program until you have a formal case manager from the NJDEP and they have been assigned to you. There are many people who work at the NJDEP and most are support people to help your application get through the door of even just having a case manager assigned to you. So if you're unsure if you have a case manager, contact the person you've been dealing with and ask them directly if they are your formal case manager for your application. If they say no, then your application is still in a pile waiting on funding to be available for NJDEP to purchase your property. The team will speak to funding here in a bit, I'm sure. But if they say yes, then congrats, you are in the Blue Acres buyout program.
I wanted to ask, actually, you mentioned the funding, and did you find out what pot of funding your buyout was funded from?
So I was specifically part of the SWIFT program
Yeah, I think
funding pot.
Yeah. I think one of the things we've learned now is these newer applications, the ones that have gone in since August time, I think they're funded by another program, which is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. And yeah, thanks, Jody. I said the full name before.
The NJDEP is
Yeah,
the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection.
Thank you. And yeah, your acronyms, if there's any acronyms anybody doesn't know, please ask, as Jody did. So these newer applications seem to be coming from US Department of Housing and Urban Development, often called HUD, down to the state and then distributed by Blue Acres. So this is CDBG-DR money, which was specifically for Ida, specifically given. So I also believe, and the reason I'm saying this is different funding pots may have different rules for the buyouts. Is that something other people have heard as well? I think, yeah. Well, that's something I've heard. So what happens, Marianne, after that initial confirmation that there's funding for Blue Acres to use for you?
So once you have a case manager, they're going to ask you for a lot of documents. In working with NJOP, I helped them create a buyout guide. So I'm sure someone will be available to put a link in the chat to that buyout guide. You're going to need to have all of your documentation from your insurance company, from any loans that you may have taken, from bank or SBA, Small Business Administration. You're going to need any receipts, any and all receipts that you may have paid out of pocket that insurance didn't cover. I do also highly recommend that you get yourself a real estate lawyer to help you navigate all the legal paperwork. It's not required. No one requires it from the DEP or from the Blue Acres program, but it is highly recommended. There's going to be a lot of questions that may arise, and a lawyer can help easily explain the process and help answer those questions that Blue Acres will not answer. to all of the documentation pieces. The reason I point that out is being able to show Blue Acres the difference in depreciation from what insurance gives you to what the actual cost you had to pay out of pocket for is key. Insurance works on a depreciation scale. So when you fill out all the documentation for your insurance company, they use depreciation to determine the value of the cost of replacement. However, we know that depreciation isn't what it is, where it used to be. So your costs you're going to paying out of pocket are higher. So you want to be able to prove to Blue Acres what you truly paid, which is where all those receipts are going to come in handy. Things like purchasing clothing, furniture, replacement tools, household items, pots and pans, lawnmowers, whatever it may be. You want to have all of that documentation on hand. You also want to show any loan documentation you had to take for repairs, such as a loan from your bank, a loan from a credit union, a loan from your 401k, a loan from the Small Business Administration. Again, having all of this documentation helps build your case to Blue Acres to get a better buyout number, a more fair number. That said, we all know that Blue Acres uses a pre-flood value for your home. It does not take into consideration the current market, the current real estate market, which is why all of those receipts I mentioned earlier are important. You proving to Blue Acres that the costs today are higher than what they were in 2021 will help you attain a more fair buyout. The original buyout offer that I was given was $325,000, just slightly above, very small, narrow, above what I owed on my mortgage. It would have left me with zero to purchase another home, let alone put a deposit on an apartment in New Jersey. We know how expensive those are these days. I personally took it upon myself to do my own research and arm myself with what I felt I would need to fight Blue Acres for a fair buyout. I found out the value of my home in today's market, and I used that to leverage to show Blue Acres that their offer was not a fair offer. I could have easily gotten more money from the current market than what Blue Acres was offering me. That is when Blue Acres offered me what they call resilience funding. Before I get into resilience funding, Leanna, do you or Jody or someone want to help explain buckets and the programs? I know we talked a little bit about it, touched upon the SWIFT, but I think understanding funding and how things get funded will make a better understanding for all.
Yeah, thank you. And there was one question that came up before I get into that about can credit card statements, should those be used when when you're getting your evidence together of what you've spent, what you've put on loans? Is that
You can
okay?
absolutely show credit card statements. If there's a payment that you made for something that you had to replace and that's on a credit card statement, absolutely. Does the program allow you to rent rather than to buy a new place if you're unsure where you're going? Yes. As long as you prove to them that you have another place to live, and that could be either a rental, it could be a new home purchase, it could be living with family and friends, then yes, you can absolutely do that.
And on the buckets, yes, this is one thing. A couple of articles have been written on like Blue Acres, which has been around for a long time, and it basically it's always branded in New Jersey as Blue Acres, but there's different pots of funding behind it, and there's the money they get to actually purchase the house, and then there's other money that on paper it doesn't look like it goes toward the purchase of the house. It's not what they paid for the house at the end of the day, but it does go towards you. And I think I'm right in saying, yeah, that's why we're sort of putting it in quotes when we say resilience. I think they first said to you it was relocation assistance, but then you found out that actually it wasn't that helpful to help you relocate.
Yeah, so when they first explained it to me, they market it as relocation assistance, quote unquote, meant to help me have money for moving expenses, a down payment on another property. I was informed later on by Blue Acres, no, excuse me, I was informed at that time that this relocation assistance, just for that purpose, however, when it came down to it, it was renamed resilience funds. And that resilience funds came from a separate funding area. But I would not be able to have that money until after I closed on the property that they were buying from me. So that meant that I would have to live in a hotel with my family, stay with friends if I wanted that money prior to finding and closing on a new property. So what I thought I would have for down payment, I wouldn't see until after I closed with them. That's a large gap in their processes. I will say that though, with all the receipts and the documentation that I had, all that I powered myself with, I was able to navigate an offer of that $325 from my house and an additional $98,000 in resilience funding to allow me to accept the buyout. This is a total offer of $423,000 for my buyout. Blue Acres doesn't want you to know about my offer, though. If you ask them, they won't disclose anything because it far exceeds what they traditionally offer people. But I'm here with NJOP to educate and inform everybody because you have that power. You have the power to negotiate and work with them.
Thank you so much. Do you remember like what the first offer they gave you was? Like, did it go up at
The
all?
first
Like,
offer was just the original 325. They're like, we can't do anything more with that. This is your pre-value, value of your home. However, they didn't take into account the current market, of course. They don't take into account the differences in depreciation for insurance costs and whatnot. They just specifically look at the property itself, which we know, to them, it's a business transaction. To us, it's personal. This is our homes. This is our families. This is our lives. And it takes a lot of hard work to do things. I see a question in the chat. How much did the lawyer cost? So the lawyer that I used, which I can share with NJOP, and they can, if they need to, they can share that out with everyone, had a flat fee, which is good because if you get a real estate lawyer that doesn't have a flat fee, you can start incurring a lot of costs. But my real estate lawyer was a flat fee of I believe it was $1,250, which was all rolled up into closing costs and everything like that. That's $1,250, not 12,000.
thank goodness for that. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for that. I just want to take a moment because I'm sure there are going to be some other questions coming out of this. There are a few other longtime members who are here and are at earlier stages, particularly who can respond based on their experiences with the newer type of funding, even though nobody else here, as far as I know, has actually completed the process. So I wanted to mention specifically Eric, who just asked the question in the chat. Eric also lives in Manville. He has applied, hasn't been happy with the offer, and has let them know that. So there is power in this. Eric, if you're able to speak now, have you received multiple offers? How much did they offer you initially versus what you need? Oh. Oh no, I think we're having that mute issue again. You might have
Eric's off mute.
Yeah, but you might have to leave and come back again, Eric, because that's what we found happened with Marianne.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Maybe while we're waiting for him, is there anyone else that maybe we can ask?
Any other questions that have come up while Marianne's been speaking from anybody who's here?
I do have a question for Mary Ann, and I know that you spoke about this. How do they prove that you're living somewhere else before they do the purchase? Like, how did that work for you?
So what I had to do was so it's a little tricky. So when you're through the process and you formally accepted their offer, it goes to their legal team to start working out the details. Which is where, as I mentioned, a real estate lawyer comes in handy for yourself if you don't understand how they're navigating things. And when it came down to the final inspection, because they do an inspection of your house before they formally close. You walk through your property with someone from Blue Acres to show that it is fully empty and you have moved out. They will not close on your property until you are fully out of your property and it is empty, everything removed. My walkthrough final inspection actually happened at a time when Manville was flooding in December when all those rains came through. So I was able to do a virtual walkthrough where I took photos of every single room from different angles and videos of the whole property to prove to them that I was gone. And that's when they were able to formally accept it and close on the property. Does that help answer your question, Christine?
That totally does. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does a couple of people have asked in the run up to today, are there differences in eligibility for Blue Acres in terms of household income? People being concerned that they might not be eligible because of their current income. Is there anybody, Marianne, I don't know if you have any insight on that or anybody else who's applied recently.
I don't know if income plays a role in their program. Honestly, I've not seen that, and it was never questioned of my application. Then not once did it come up of, oh, how much do you make each year? How much? What's your income coming in? What's your tax return? They did obviously, you know, go through all of my documentation through what they call a duplication of benefits review, but not once did they question my income.
Okay, thanks, because that's something it might be
a very valid question.
Yeah. It's probably something we could ask as a follow-up ask of the program, because a couple of people that were emailing in had questions about that. Does anybody else have any comments? Is Eric back yet? No? No.
I do. Is this what they call resilience money? Was that isolated to the program that you were in, or do you know if that's available to the other buckets we've talked about for the buyout?
Great question. So the buyout purchase price of my home, the $325, that's through the SWIFT program. The resilience fund came from a separate bucket. So a separate resilience fund bucket that they use to pull from to help people with the buyout. So that is my understanding. It is not the I'm going to mess up these acronyms, CDBG, it's not HARP, it's not SWIFT, it's their own sort of bucket that they keep to the side.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Eric is back.
I see Eric back.
Eric, do you want to just test it?
Oh,
Mike?
can I ask one more question for Marianne real quick?
Go for it.
I don't know if you said this or not, but with the resilience funding, did that cover, do you know if that would cover like renting an Airbnb or a hotel while you wait for the funding from Blue Acres to come through?
You don't
on the
get
closing?
Yeah, you don't get the resilience funding until after you close with them. So it's money that comes out of the closing. So you won't even see the money to be able to use it for a B&B or a hotel or something. I had to pay out of pocket for a hotel in order to close on my property with Blue Acres to get that resilience fund for down payment on a new home.
They really don't want to make this easy for us, do they?
No, and that's why Jody and Leanna and everyone's here for fighting for this.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Though, Christina, there is an option. So please don't get discouraged. We are working with DCA to see if we could find forms of rental assistance for you now. Maybe we talk out of this space about that.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
Great point, Jody.
Eric, do you want to see if your mic's working?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, excellent.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to ask you, have you received multiple offers from Blue Acres, and how much have they offered you for home purchase versus resilience?
Well, the first offer was 305 without resilience. And then I fought. And then their second offer came up to 330. But it's still not enough. And they're sending me another offer in the mail, but it's yeah, it's been tough. And I don't have all the receipts. I paid cash for some of the stuff to get a cheaper rate for the construction because I didn't get enough insurance money. So I didn't have all my receipts. So they only accounted for about $40,000 when of repairs. So that put me in a hole. And yeah, it's just been a tough struggle.
Eric,
And also too with the town, I'm not sure how many people are here from Manville, but they kind of put us in another pickle with an ordinance where now they're forcing people to raise your home before you even sell it on the free market. So they're really tying our hands. And there's a house for sale on my block, which I had to go to the open house and make the real estate agent aware of what the ordinance was.
Yeah,
So no, it hasn't been enough.
Eric, does that ordinance have anything to do with the substantial damage letter that, I don't know how
Yes.
you got yours, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
whoever got a substantial damage letter in Manville either has to elevate before they sell, or the buyer has to agree to elevate at some point after they purchase the house. And it's
Yeah.
really spooked one of the people in the valley. The day of closing, they found that out. The day of closing, the town has no communication. So whoever here is from Manville, my suggestion is we should meet at the next town council meeting and make some noise about this, because the mayor is not being upfront about this, and people are finding out at days of closing that this is an issue.
And losing buyers. Buyers are
Losing
just,
buyers. Yep.
and
Eric,
those buyers might be losing their deposits, so it's not fair. Sorry, go on,
that's
Marianne.
okay. Eric, can I ask you a question? Did Blue Acres give you the option to appeal the appraisal on your home?
Yes. I'm actually gonna send over comps. I got a real estate agent, a friend of mine, who sent me over comps. Houses that sold in my area.
Okay, so I wanna bring this point up. So Blue Acres does give you the ability to appeal their appraisal. So their appraisal is, again, is that pre-market value of your home. You can appeal that appraisal. The caveat to that is you have to pay out of pocket an appraiser to do the formal appraiser of your home. That is different from comps, Eric. That's the only thing. An appraisal is different from comparables. Comparables in a real estate market is just what other homes in your area have sold for. An appraisal actually looks at the true value of your home, of what it is today. So you could potentially appeal that appraisal if you want to, again, if you want to pay. This is Blue Acres making you pay out of pocket for things. I was told by Blue Acres that if I appealed the appraisal, I could potentially get $30,000 to $60,000 more in my offer.
Yeah, I'll be doing that.
Yeah, Jody. Yeah.
What's the appraiser cost? 500, 300? I don't know.
It all depends on the appraiser you get. I did not go that route. I had other things that I threw at them. But I did get estimates from appraisers. So they ranged from 500 to 750 for the ones that I reached out to.
So Eric, because Marianne talked about how she determined like what she would need to get for an offer. How have you done anything different, similar in determining what you are prepared to sell for?
I want what the current market is going to give me for my house. So that's my determination. I'm not going to lose my house over a natural disaster. You know,
You're not going to get
I
current
also have
market.
another caveat too. I got a $75,000 grant through, it's COVID. It's not, I applied for that. Because I was $91,000 in the hole of my mortgage. I was 3.5 years without a mortgage payment. So I finally got square with my mortgage. That $75,000 doesn't become a grant until November of 2026. So I was willing to put my house on the market November of 2026 when that $75,000 comes off, and I could walk away with probably $180,000 to $200,000 profit on my house. So why would I want to give that up?
So
only caveat, I have to cross my fingers and pray that in the next 2 years, we don't get flooded again. That's the gamble.
So just for some clarification, the $325,000 offer that Blue Acres gave me is not market value. And the resilience funding has no effect on that 325. It's extra money. So when I combined the resilience funding with their offer, that's where I got the 423, which made it market value. So your biggest thing that you're going to need to do, Eric, is get that resilience funding up. They're not going to change their offer because they base it on that pre-market value. It's the fight for the resilience funding. That's what's going to get you to market value.
They gave me 46,000 in resilience funding. So
They tried that with me. They gave me 44. And I said,
yeah.
absolutely not. I threw it back at them in a not so nice way.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm walking and I'm putting it on the market. And then they tried to bully me by
Of course.
sending me emails of, oh, did you see this news article? Real estate lawyers have to disclose X, Y, and Z. Did you see this new law? And I said, yeah, I saw it all. But I also know how to navigate that with the help of NJOP, with the help of my realtor, with the help of, you know, whomever I had in my pocket. So get that 46 up and then you'll get to market value. We at NJOP will do everything we can to help you get that up. I will personally help you, Eric.
Yeah. No, Marianne, we really appreciate it. And I've put other people your way that have asked, you know, more specific questions. And I know
Can
you're
I
busy.
make it clear? Make something clear. And Marianne, thank you so much for offering all your help. When we say we at NJOP, we mean all our membership bind together to do that. That NJOP itself, the staff, does not, but we organize all the members together to do it together. Like Marianne, we would not have most of this knowledge if it wasn't for Marianne. And I am thankful for that. Eric, with his powerful presence, has always helped move us forward. So each and every one of us, when we say we mean us as a full team.
There were a couple, thank you, Jody. There were a couple of questions, one that was answered, but just in case people aren't looking at their chat. Russ asked if you made repairs prior to the buyout, and you said yes, you did, and all those were the receipts that you had to provide. That's right, Marianne?
That's correct. So I did make repairs prior to the buyout because I needed a home for my family. After Ida, my daughter and I had to move into an apartment, which was about $3,000 a month. And I couldn't live in $3,000 a month for any longer than what we were. So I swallowed the bullet, paid out of pocket, and repaired my home and moved back into it. So all of those receipts for those repairs, I threw right back at Blue Acres and said, okay, then here's what I paid out. You need to replace all that because it's not fair to me to lose all of that money for you to buy my home and demolish it. And I saw Jeanette's question as well. How do you get resilience funding? They're not going to offer you resilience funding. Blue Acres keeps that in their back pocket as like, you know, that ace in their pocket. Like, oh, well, you know, if I really want this property, let me pull it out. Oh, I can now offer you resilience funding. You can inquire about it. No one says you can't. I did that. Said, oh, well, you can't pull from anywhere else to help me relocate. I use the term relocate because it's on all over their website. Like, oh, you know, we help homeowners relocate to better areas. Okay, if you're going to help me relocate, how are you going to do that for me? And that's where you pull it out of them. So yes, you can absolutely say that to them.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, I think too, also, if I might add, what they don't understand is my current interest rate is 4.25 on my mortgage, right? So what they're essentially asking me to do is to give up my home, almost make my family homeless for a period of time, and then buy into this market with a 7% interest rate and possibly double my mortgage payment every month is what they're asking me to do. And that's how but we're helping you.
Yeah.
They're not helping.
Everyone who's in the position, I think, of, you know, having quite a bit of money in a, you know, borrowed in a mortgage, which most of us, you know, young families, single parents are,
people,
you know,
yeah.
and a lot of
Young
people are. So together, collectively, if we know these tips and tricks, I think it'll make our negotiation a lot better. And hopefully make the program become fairer and more open, which leads me to a few questions. And I know some of you have put some of this, but a couple of questions for everyone here. After what you've learned so far today, is there anything, a burning question still in your mind for Blue Acres? Put this in the chat, please, or if you want to say something quickly, you can raise your hand or let us know. You know, what do you think? The second question would be, what changes could they make, could Blue Acres make? I think we've seen one is they should make the resilience funding a bit more, you know, known about, and not hide it from people, and acknowledge that people have to, this is a cost that people have to bear. To move is a huge cost beyond just the property you're buying. I think, yes, yeah, Jody, that's it. So we each of us who are in this program have to be proactive. You can't just take what they give you, because they don't give you very much.
And it's not easy. I will tell you, I spent countless nights in tears while my kids slept in the other room, worrying about how am I going to make it safe for her? How am I going to make it safe for us as a family? When's the next time it's going to rain and the flood's going to come, right? So you get a lot of mental health anguish throughout all of this, and it's not fair to anyone at all, at any stage you're at. So yes, to Jody's point, you have to be proactive for yourself and your buyout, and strong, because once you cross that finish line, you do feel a lot of weight off your shoulders. I will say that.
And your comment about, you know, what could be improved. Now, this is one of the things that as we get more information, and we're only going to get that from all the people here in this Zoom room today, and as we continue to meet, the pre-value and current value comparison instead of just pre-value. Now, apparently, this was one of the things that I said when I was interviewed for the news, that they're using pre-storm value, and they said that's not true anymore. That's not true with this funding. I have yet to see that that's not true, because I have not had an offer. So that is a huge thing that we're going to continue to pursue. That, like, well, which is it? Because they're not that is not stated, and all your paperwork you said stated pre-value, right? And that's still what's all over their paperwork. So it remains to be seen. Yes, and thank you, Russ. Yeah, that we are meeting with the mayor of Manville, and we've got and if there is anybody else from Manville that if you haven't come, we had an in-person meeting in Manville, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to be meeting with the mayor and continuing to work together on those specific issues for Manville.
And I know a big thank you to all of NJOP, because you guys have been fighting very hard with Blue Acres and having chats and discussions with them when they want to talk to you. When they're kind enough to talk to us. But I think, you know, another thing, not just meeting with the mayor of Manville and what he should be doing, but NJDEP and Blue Acres program need to not hide in the back room anymore. They need to come out and they need to face everyone, and they need to talk to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're all working together to take those proactive steps. So it's easier for everybody applying right now and everybody who will apply. We're now at the point where we were going to hand over. Jody, is there anything else you want to say about sort of upcoming things? You did talk about the mortgage forbearance.
Yeah, I do. And after listening to all of this, and I want to thank everyone for really discussing this, because I learn all the time from you. Though I'm a Sandy survivor, I only know my disaster, and it was different than this disaster. And trust me, the next one's going to be different too. The government is for the government, and we have to stand for ourselves, because they work in a box and we try to break that box apart. The one thing is, by also letting your representatives know what goes on, talking to people, even joining us and getting the public aware that there are people who are still struggling, because trust me, at the coast, we have no idea what denied a survivor. People, unless it's in your face, nobody gets it anymore unless you're one of them. So we have to constantly continue talking and talking. And some days it's a little shouting, but it's making sure people see you as a human being, a family, a community, and not a number. I think that's a priority. And we do have something coming up with the senator, don't we?
We do, yeah. And
Steinhardt.
we are always looking for additional people. This in particular is going to be a tour of Manville to show that the situations that people are still in, trying to recover from the storm, not wanting to leave their community, and not wanting to accept lowball offers from Blue Acres either. So yeah, Senator Steinhardt, he's the state senator for District 23. So we're having this tour in Manville because we do have a lot of people in Manville, but he is the state senator for all of District 23, which includes a much wider area. So they're going to come after months of trying to arrange. They're going to come, senator and members of his team. We're going to bring him on a tour of the homes which are still in the process of rebuilding, visit people who have not returned home, and it took Eric a long time, but he's back. There are still other people who haven't returned home, haven't been able to. And speaking to more people who don't want to leave, but were suddenly told they were not eligible for HARP funding. So we're hoping to get his support for trying to get different sources of funding for people in that position, because of so-called safety or floodway issues. So yeah, that's one of my first asks is anyone interested who wants to come in person to that meeting with Senator Steinhardt and future elected officials that we're hoping to set up. If you're interested in that, just put up your hand in your thing, or put it in the chat. Say yes, I'll come. And I know Eric, you're gonna be there. Debbie's gonna be there. I know Jody's gonna be there. Oh, did I miss? Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that from Jeanette. Yeah. So yeah, people haven't even gotten pre-flood market value, pre-flood tax assessed. Yeah, so we need to keep an eye on this, and the only way we can is by hearing from all of you. Thanks, Russ. You'll be there. Yeah, you're right. You're right outside the area, but still in District 23. That's awesome. For those of you in other districts who are here, if you want to attend a meeting with one of your elected officials, we may need their support one day. Most likely we will on one of the things that we work on. So if you will come to a meeting somewhere in your district, you could even host a tour at your home. Again, let us know in the chat that you'll do that.
I think the most important thing here is, like you're saying, is that yes, we're angry with our electeds, right? It's just like sometimes you just want to say, why aren't you doing anything? But we also have to find that balance of how we work with them and teach them. And yeah, absolutely, the more electeds that are on our side, the more helpful. Is that correct, Leanne?
That's definitely, that's what happens. That's how we move things forward. And on that, we're going to be going back to Trenton at some point soon, probably before, well, hopefully, next month, before June 1st, hopefully. If anybody's interested in coming to Trenton to testify for these bills and get some much needed relief off your mortgage, anybody who has a mortgage could benefit from this if you're an IDA survivor. We're always looking for people who can come to Trenton. So just again, reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat as well, but you can put your comments in the chat or reach out and email me for Trenton. And then again, I just want to thank Marianne and Eric who spoke today. And if anybody else wants to share their story who hasn't had the opportunity to share a story, again, please let me know. And you can speak to Cameron, who's here on the call. He's our comms guy. If you want to talk to the press, maybe you've already spoken to the press, please let us know what's going on in your area. And I just wanted to mention, because there are a few people who I haven't seen in recent calls. Oh, there's Cameron. Hello. If this is your first time joining us and you want to get involved in other issues, or you have ideas of other issues you want to see covered in meetings like this, we have virtual storms meetings the last Wednesday of every month. Could we put the registration link in the chat, and we'll definitely send it around in a follow-up email after this. The next one is next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. last Wednesday of every month, 6:30 to 7:30. We'd love to have you join us. And the last point I wanted to make was about mental health. We know as flood survivors, this process of recovery and navigating programs like this, which don't really work for us, it takes a toll on your mental and physical health. So first and foremost, I just want to wish everyone, take time for yourself, talk about what you're going through. There were some specific funded support groups after Superstorm Sandy. Ida, we didn't get such support. I think part of that is because we are kind of dispersed around the area. If there's any free or cheap sources of support anyone has used for mental health, therapy support groups, again, please put that in the chat, reach out to me, let me know. I was fortunate enough to already, have a therapist before this, and I sure as hell need one to get through this. So yeah, if you know of anything, oh, thanks, Cameron. You've got the storm organizing call is in the chat. So yeah, just we're here to look after each other and support each other in this fight. Thanks again to everyone who's spoken and asked questions. Jody, is there anything else you wanted to say before we close?
I don't think so, but I appreciate everyone who took time to come today. I appreciate Marianne and Eric for really educating us and for being a vulnerable person and telling us what's going on in their life and how hard this is. Nobody wants to make it easy, because if it's made easy, then you'll walk away, and that's not what we all should do. We all have to fight for what we need for a safe and fair recovery, whatever that may be. If that's a buyout, great. If that's staying in your home, what does that look like? But thank you again for everyone taking the time. And Leanna, thank you for organizing this.
Absolutely.
From Russ personally, I want to thank Marianne for her comments and stuff like that, her information to help others, and also Eric with his information to help others, especially the people in Manville. Eric, I mean, this thing with the town council and stuff like that, making you do all these hoops before you sell the house. Maybe Blue Acres is the only way out. I don't know. Good luck, bro.
We're gonna have information in a follow-up email about potential meetings with the program. So please look out for that. And thank you. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
I will
Thank you
say just
everyone
real
for the
quick,
great
Blue Acres
questions.
is using that, by the way, as a caveat to force your hand on a buyout. They're using that ordinance